Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Djinn deck. Now there's two types of these cards. There's the XYZ cards, and then there is the ritual monster cards that are, well, they're not ritual monsters, but they're used for ritual monsters. So they're in two different categories, and in this deck we use both of them in order to create a good situation on the field and counter a lot of the different things that your opponent can do. So first off in this deck we have Manju. Manju, really great card for setting up rituals very easily, getting whatever you need. Tour guide, setting up the 3-star XYZs. Most of the XYZs for this archetype are 3-star, so tour guide is great to set that up. And then we have Relinquished, which is our star ritual card. Very annoying for your opponent to deal with. A lot of counters, obviously, but this deck will help you kind of protect yourself from those counters. And then we have Kagetokage, giving us access to 4-star XYZs, which will be very, very useful in this deck type. And then we have Release of Rituals. So the Djinns we're using in this deck for the effect monsters are just these two. They allow us to ritual summon using them even if they're in the graveyard, which is very, very effective. And one of them lets you keep your opponent from special summoning, one of them lets you keep your monster from being affected by traps. So both of these cards are very powerful. You bring out Relinquished, you can't be touched by traps, or your opponent can't special summon, which really limits what they can do to counter you, making Relinquished just a very, very powerful card. And then we have Effect Veiler, dealing with effects that will annoy us. Armageddon Knight, sending things to the graveyard. Another 4-star normal summon, which lets us get out Kagetokage, so we can do like Master Key Beetle or something like that, which could be very, very nice. And one Blackluster Soldier, because we have mostly dark, but we have some light, so we're able to get this out pretty easily. So now for the spell cards, obviously the ritual card for Relinquished, very easy to use this with the cards we have. MST, Preparation of Rites, allowing us to get what we need very easily. Forbidden Lance, very nice to protect our monsters, especially Relinquished. And then we have level limit area B. So when you're using a card like this, your opponent is kind of forced to XYZ summon, and then you'll end up using the XYZs you have to counter their XYZs, so it puts you in a very, very good situation. And then we have Dark Hole and Allure of Darkness in a dark base deck, giving us some draw power. We also have Gravity Bind obviously doing the same thing as level limit, and Staple Traps to help us out. For the extra deck, we're going to have mostly 3-star XYZs, but a few 4-stars as well. One Slacker Magician, just because we do have a few 1-stars, so that'll allow us to get that out if we need it. And then the Djinn XYZs, so they're pretty much enabling you to counter other XYZs and really annoy your opponent. So we have Melomelody, Temtempo, Muzurhythm, very, very effective cards. They're all basically to help you kind of go against your opponent's XYZs that they're kind of forced to get out because you're using cards like Level Limit, Gravity Bind, and Relinquished and stuff like that. So very, very effective. And then Leviair and Zenmaines also very effective for this deck type. For the 4-stars, 2 Maestrokes because he's obviously a Djinn, so that helps us out to protect our other cards. Again, very effective. And we also have Silent Honor, Exciton Knight, Lavalval Chain, very nice for setting up the graveyard, and Master Key Beetle, very good in this deck, very easy to get out, and protects our cards very nicely. So now for the side deck, if you haven't seen a video of mine before, the side decks in my videos are just kind of recommended cards that can also work with the deck. These are just suggestion cards that maybe if you want to build your own Djinn deck, you can, add these to it and think about how they can be used. Definitely not a side deck for matches, that's not what this is for, just, to give you guys some ideas. So one thing that this deck could use is a little more draw power. So cards like Card D, Pot of Duality can be very useful. Card D will probably not run in the way as much as Pot of Duality would because you do a lot of special summoning. Sonic Bird can be useful for getting your spell card, but I find it to be a little annoying to use. I find that Manju's a little better. You can run other rituals in this deck. You can make this deck based on rituals, and you could focus on powerful ones like Herald. Can lead you to do some very powerful things. Can definitely lead to some cool lockdowns. Demise, if you want to make a Demise deck, you can run it with the Djinns and things like that. Other XYZs you can run, Daigusto would be nice for recycling what you're using. Contract with Abyss, other more generic ritual cards can be used to do some interesting things. I do like Relinquished because of his requirement. It doesn't require a certain amount of levels, so it's very nice for this deck. Barrel from a Different Dimension can be useful for getting back your banished cards. One Day of Peace can be good because this deck might want to stall at some points. The Dark Door, things like this, you can lead into a Relinquished kind of lockdown, and things like the Dark Door help with that. Safe Zone, things to protect your monsters can be very useful. Obviously, Safe Zone of Master Key Beetle, Safe Zone with Relinquished can be very nice. Royal Decree, you can run No Traps and run Royal Decree. Divine Wrath, cards that discard can be useful to dump the Djinns because you don't need them in your hand. You can run like support cards with rituals that really lock down your opponent. Like Grisal Prison is very, very nice to annoy your opponent and keep them from XYZ summoning. And Ritual Buster, another card when you're ritual summoning, can be very annoying for your opponent to deal with. My deck isn't fully, ritual focused. It's kind of a half ritual, half XYZ deck, so I'm not running those full ritual supports, but that's definitely a way you can run this deck, and it can be very annoying for your opponent when they don't have anything to deal with your Relinquished. So that's my Djinn deck. Definitely very interesting. Definitely like using Relinquished because he's such an old card, so it's really fun to bring him out and annoy your opponents with him. And I really like a lot of the options this deck has. Can really mess with your opponent. They're forced to XYZ, and then they're forced to get countered on their XYZs, which is really, really nice. But if you guys ever own Djinn decks, you could post below. Let me know in the comments. You could talk about what cards you use. You can make suggestions for me. Maybe there's cards I didn't think about that could be really good for this deck. I definitely love to hear that. When I look back and update it, I definitely want to know all the possibilities. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.